Well, Susan Zaluba Gobodo Grant Thornton has today published its 2024 Women in Business report that highlights gender diversity in senior management among the world's mid-market businesses, exposing barriers and identifying action for change, which just also happens to coincide with International Women's Day, which will be commemorated or is being commemorated today. Now, SNG Grant Thornton Chief Information Officer, Dr. Sylvia Sathekge, is here to tell us more about it. Doctor, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So take us through the report. What were your findings, rather, in terms of gender diversity in the mid-market businesses? And what were those barriers that you actually identified as the biggest contributors of hindrance to the emancipation of women in key positions?
Good evening and good evening to the viewers at home. Thanks for having me. The barriers that we found is that basically the report, maybe let me explain how the report came about, right? The report, we started tracking from 20 years ago, since 1992, and we've been tracking progress that is happening in mid-market businesses. And by mid-market, we're looking at the global definition, which looks at between businesses that are hiring 50 to 500 people. And the survey is gathering data from 28 countries. So having said that, with that context, so where we're sitting today is that progress has been made, but not enough. And I guess hence the call from other even UN members. We are seeing that there is increase in women taking up leadership position, and by leadership positions we mean senior management and your C-suite positions. Maybe just to track where we come from. When we started tracking this report in South Africa in 1992, women in senior leadership positions were at 26%. Today we are sitting at 42%. Right? It shows an increase. However, if you compare those figures with what happened last year, it's just an increase of 1%. Showing that while there was effort to increase and to make sure that we are deliberate about making sure that women occupy senior positions, it looks like the trajectory is going down, and we need to do something about it.
And Dr. Looking at the speech there by the UN Secretary General, who's basically pledged that they will support member states and across all governments as well that have those initiatives that do seek to, of course, empower women. In South Africa in particular, we're in the 30th year of democracy. Policies like your affirmative action were long introduced, as well as many programs to try and emancipate as well as uplift women. Those programs were initiated, but how far then are we in terms of gains, and what more do you think still needs to be done?
So we have made progress, right? If you look at 26% 20 years ago, 42%, it shows a 61% increase in terms of where we come from. But of course, it's not enough. And it shows again that those intended strategies and policies did help. And hence, we advocate for quotas, but not just for women to be put in positions just because we are filling quotas. If our study shows that if we were to continue in the same trajectory that we're continuing now, it will take us up until 2053 for us to reach the parity that we want. And so we have to do something different. We have to be deliberate. In our report, we also give pathways towards a parity, and there's three things that are highlighted in the report. First being that it must be led from the senior leadership, it must be led by the CE, and you must have senior women as well as part of your diversity, equity and inclusion. The report also highlights that you then need to have flexibility to accommodate women, right? And once there's flexibility, you're making the workplace and the business very accommodative for women. And the third one is that we need to work together in making sure that we reach that parity, and hence the inclusion in the DE&I. We need to work together. It's not a women's agenda only. It's both women and men's agenda, and we need to work together to make sure that we reach parity.
Now, Doctor, just a quick note to you and our viewers. Of course, we are still monitoring the International Women's Day celebration out at the UN in New York. We will be taking you back live there. We are just waiting for Amina Mohammed, who is the Deputy, of course, Secretary General of the United Nations. We will definitely bring you that speech by her when she goes on the podium. But right now, Doctor, I think let's continue. I think you also touched on this a little bit. I mean, the number of women in senior as well as key decision-making structures has increased, according to a report, by 9%, your study of 30 to 39%. Please elaborate on what this trend actually illustrates, and are we right on track? Will we ever then reach the glass ceiling, so to speak, when women still have to deal with the reality of also being the primary caregivers in their family structures, some leaving school early because of these very scenarios?
I think we are if we are deliberate about it, we will reach. It's possible for us to reach parity. The study is revealing that some of the things that we're looking at in parity, again, we also look at to look at the pay gap, right? And in the study, it shows that those who were surveyed believe that part of the hurdles is that we need to close the gap between what male counterparts are earning and what female counterparts are earning, but flexibility being the key. And the study also shows that in those organizations where you have CEOs as women, there is flexibility in hybrid working model, whereas more than where there is companies led by men. And this shows that maybe having a woman-led organization also shows that we understand what women goes through, what women are going through, and alleviating some of those hurdles that are making it difficult for women to take up leadership positions.
And then, Doctor, to what extent then do you think, regardless of some challenges, of course, including your GBV, has women empowerment advanced, particularly in this country, in terms of business? And also take us through those proposals assigning responsibility for diversity, equity, as well as inclusion as identified in your report.
So I think it's also, the call is also on us, right? We can't want to be given these positions on a silver platter. We must be able to perform in those positions. And therefore, it's very important that we as women as well, we empower ourselves, we educate ourselves, and we make sure that we are ready for the positions that we are looking to take. But some of the things that we are advocating is that we must create a pipeline. And we as SNG Grant Thornton, for example, we believe that if you look at the pipeline of who is coming into the directorship, 52% of that would be females, and it shows that you have to be deliberate about wanting to change and wanting to see a parity, and giving ourselves timelines. And we know we're not chasing quotas, but having quotas and giving ourselves timelines also helps.
And in closing, Doctor, I mean, the theme for this year's International Women's Day actually speaks to inclusivity, equality and diversity. But how far do you think we are in achieving these goals as a country?
I think we are on the right path. However, maybe we should shy away from comparing ourselves, right? When we talk about diversity, in its definition, it means we embrace each other the way we are, our cultures, our religion, and that talks about both male, females, irrespective of gender. And then we come to equity. Equity says, let's level the playground. Let's make sure that we remove all the hurdles that are making it difficult for the other groups to participate. And in inclusion, it says we we all have the right, and we all have a need to earn the respect to be at the table. So we are on the right path, but we need to be deliberate about it. We need to have specific and particular strategies in our businesses that deals with gender parity. It is not enough that maybe it is incorporated in your ESG strategy. You need to have a strategy that clearly targets gender parity.
Doctor, thank you so much for your contribution, and happy International Women's Day to you. That is Dr. Sylvia Sathekge, the SNG Grant Thornton Chief Information Officer. Remember, we're still expecting to cross live back to the UN, where Amina Mohammed, of course, who's the UN Deputy Secretary General, will be addressing, of course, the International Women's Day celebration. Right now, though, Joel is standing by with the latest in your weather.